Random Mania 2. We thank everyone for joining in and following us tonight as we continue the journey through this. This is actually the first matchup for both of these runners, so we will see them in a best 2 out of 3 tournament competition tonight.
Yeah, and with these two runners, you're gonna see route divergence early on. I know Fred likes to go to vanilla level 3 first, and MrDunlo is heading up towards level 1. Both strategies you'll see employed depending on the runner. One sort of gets you up towards the grave and lets you tech 3 levels, while level 3 is an early wrap, and you can get a lot of information, then still head up towards vanilla level 6. So both are pretty similar routes. It just is all a matter of preference. So we see Fred in level 4 with an early Triforce here, and MrDunlo in level 8.
So already we're seeing that divergence, just depending on, using screen scrolls, and both of them are pretty accessible early on. So not a bad play in either one. 3 items available in level 8. We do have Heart Shuffle on in these brackets. So they're the same as the week 5 qualifier flag set. So in addition to that Heart Shuffle, we've also got enemy HP rolled up or down, plus or minus up to 2. We've got Shapes on, which to the chagrin of some of our runners, I'm sure. I mean, shapes are kind of, love them or hate them. And we also have dungeon items shuffled, as well as dungeon locations. So you will see the vanilla locations, but the dungeons that you find there may be different.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that we went ahead with the type of flags that we did, well, first of all, these are modified versions of the flags that were run at Games Done Quick by Fred and Jam Eveler. But also, this sort of necessitates all the key items. So the recorder is definitely required. The raft is definitely required. Ladder most likely is going to be required. Bow and silver arrow. So you have 5 items that you have to find, and it gives a little more required digging. So instead of the exploration of the overworld like we've seen in a bunch of past randomizers, this one is more geared towards digging for those items. So it becomes a little more in the style of the Link to the Past, where it's more heavily an item randomizer than anything.
Absolutely, and those items will open up different availabilities to you depending on which dungeons you can go to. Just catching up a bit with our runners, we saw Fred take down that, I think, 3 or 4-headed Gleeok, and then take the Triforce out of 4 as MrDunlo left level 8, which was at the vanilla level 1 location, went up, found the Armos item, discovered it was the wooden boomerang, and decided not to pick that up. So heading up to vanilla level 6 location, and basically, heading around in that direction to see what he can see.
Yeah, Fred's gonna go ahead and find level 8 here at vanilla level 1. Vanilla level 1 being at level 6 is really nice because of the possibility of getting in there. Fred's gonna have a little bit more of an advantage because at least he has a key to get in there. But we'll see how key blocked it is. And MrDunlo actually going back and picking up the boomerang. Early on, I like this play. A lot of times, memes aside, the boomerang is a amazing weapon to have early when you're low on health, and stunning enemies can be very helpful. Later on, it becomes a nuisance because really you're not going to be using it much, and it's just an item that gets in your way in your inventory.
Most definitely. And we're seeing some cheap bombs tonight, just 8 for a bomb pickup there. I think the ropes may have rolled up a little bit. They're a little beefier than normal, maybe 2 HP instead of 1, if I'm remembering correctly. Another neat thing about the boomerang is, if you decide it's your deal to play Zelda blindfolded, you can also use it for echolocation. So do not try this at home, kids.
Yeah, we've seen that put to use by one of our other runners in this tournament when he did a blindfolded playthrough. But the boomerang does have its niche uses. It's just a matter of what you're actually doing, whether you need it or not. I'm sure we. Well, actually, I can't talk for Fred. I mean, he might just, well, he can't bomb it or burn it, so he may just ignore it.
His personal methods of destruction are not quite open to him yet. So we see Mr. Dunlo digging around in level 1, and so far is running into some pretty nasty combat with only the wooden sword and 3 hearts. We're very early on in this race, so we should expect to see a few more combat pickups as time progresses.
Yeah, Dark Knights in the NSU room are difficult because you're really requiring iframes to get around them efficiently, and MrDunlo did a pretty good job there, especially avoiding the blue ones, and gets to the diamond staircase. Might have the item here, or this might be the transport to the other segmented little part up there.
We find in level 1 a heart container, one of 3 items available in this dungeon. So not a bad find. You want to find, some health early on so you can take on some of those beefier enemies, but definitely not one of the required items that we will be looking for.
Yeah, also interesting to note that Fred, even though he saw level 1, opted to not explore it right now. Probably only having one key on him, he may have just decided, level 1's typically key heavy in terms of necessity. So I'll come back here once I have some keys, maybe a few hearts, and we'll take care of it later because he has to head back up that way anyway to go to vanilla level 9. So may end up hitting 2 here, going up to 5, getting the white sword item, and then wrapping around and hitting 9 and 6 again.
And based on what Mr. Dunlo is finding here in level 1, might not be a bad play overall. I know it's tempting to go for those 3 items right off the bat, but we have seen that 2 of them are heart containers. So if Fred's able to pick up some other necessary items in the interim, then he might be in pretty good shape. Mr. Dunlo runs into a dig dogger, definitely does not have what it takes to take that down, which is the recorder, and opts out of that.
Yeah, and Fred is heading into vanilla level 2 and finds level 3 here. Level 3 is a very interesting level. 2 and 3, as odd as it sounds, are actually my favorite levels to find early because typically both levels you're going to be able to get a lot of navigation through bomb usage and not necessarily key usage. And 3 typically has a lot of key drops. So Fred might come out of this level in very, very with a very good key count, which will allow him to explore his dungeons a lot much more efficiently without having to double dip because of key blocks.
Yeah. And Fred doing a cool little trick here, clipping into the block to take down that Landmola. You can actually leave after defeating the first one, exit the room, and then walk back in. And if one has been defeated, then they will both disappear. But Fred picks up the red candle from that push block staircase and heads back out. We also see that the keys may have rolled up as well, making 2 sword slashes to defeat instead of just one. So sometimes that kind of plays with your psychology a little bit if you're expecting the keys to go in one hit and they take more than.
Yeah, and they're annoying because you can't actually stun them, so trying to get around them and everything is a little more difficult. The red candle pickup in 3 is actually great for Fred because it is a weapon that can do a lot of damage very, very quickly to enemies like the ropes and Gibdos and likes. So that's already a good benefit. And plus, now he doesn't need to spend the 69 rupees that we saw the blue candle cost.
Absolutely. And Fred seeing the power bracelet in there picks it up 3. It's always nice. It's more significant usually in swordless categories, but especially in these rando races, you're looking for any sort of repeatable damage that maybe you can use to supplement your wood sword. It's a good pickup in any case. So Fred takes that red candle and makes good use of it, coming down to vanilla level 8 to find level 2.
Yeah, level 2 is actually a really nice find. As I said, it's one of my preferred ones. 2 items on the ground, so yes, there might be a little combat that is necessary, but overall, fairly small and not a lot going on in here. So Fred should be able to, well, unless you get that, the money or life from him. But The power bracelet's also an interesting pickup for Fred. A lot of runners in these flags you'll see just skip it because, well, the take any roads are their vanilla locations. But early on, when it is when you don't have recorder and you don't have a lot of levels finished anyway, it is a great source of actually traversing the overworld very, very quickly. He can clear out some of the levels and get back to vanilla level 6, where level 1 is located, very, very quickly now.
That will be an advantage from MrDunlo coming up, giving us some information. Finds that level 9 is at Spectacle Rock, so it's in the vanilla level 9 location, but more importantly, perhaps, finds that the bow is the white sword item, because it doesn't do us any good to get into level 9 if we can't take with us what we need to defeat. So, MrDunlo finding the bow does not have enough hearts to pick it up and continues up, 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 up the mountain to vanilla level 5. And thank you, chat. Fred has found the any key in level 2 as well. So that's a really nice find early on when you're not worrying about keys.
Yeah, and this level 2, as they tend to be a lot in shapes, uh, mainly because of the algorithm and everything, but level 2 is very linear. Not a lot of different directions you can go, so you're sort of stuck on one path. So Fred, bypassing the Triforce room just to check this last one, bombs for him, not the other item, but bombs are always good.
The bomb refill room, aka any amount of Dodongo. And Fred picks up the Triforce in 2.
And we see MrDunlo fighting rabbits with the sword can be one of the most grueling things, especially when you are looking for the bow and everything, just to try as much as possible to avoid combat with them, and you never know if it's required or not, especially with room drops. So you don't want to see a lot of rabbits in your seed, but yeah, we'll see how many come around.
Until you pick up that bow, they are definitely a pain to defeat. We saw the coast item was the wand, and Fred does not have the ladder yet, so was not able to pick that up. Absolutely in chat, I'm sure. Sorry, that's our tracker and restreamer Gary and Old Wolf saying wishes he could pick up that bow. I absolutely agree. That would be a major advantage against those. Small secret rolled down to 25 too, so not up.
Yeah, Fred actually picked up the secret so he could go through this mugger room to find this other item in 2. I love the play. You know, you have most of 2 explored already. You know there's one more item in here, so why not go get the money just so you can finish this off? Also, awesome use of the red candle there. I love taking buyers out with the red candle because pretty much you can pin them and kill the keys immediately.
Yeah, once you let those things escape, they do take, they are quite a pain to try to defeat after that. Finds the last item, the second item in level 2. It is a heart container and decides to grab that and starts heading up toward the Monocle Rock, as well as the secret located right along the coast here.
Yeah, he's definitely going to get the gift heart here from Monocle Rock because this will put him at 6 hearts. That guarantees he will be able to get the white sword item, whatever it is. And he may choose to check that before he heads up to level 5, just in case it's something like the white sword or the red ring or, you know, maybe the bow. That might give him a little bit of advantage. But he is actually going up here to the shop, so he's going to set himself up for the screen wrap and head into level 5 first.
Not a bad call. We saw MrDunlo over on the right-hand side picking up the power bracelet out of level 3. So again, that same transportation advantage you'd mentioned earlier, especially early on before we find the recorder to get us around the map a little bit easier.
Yeah, and the other good thing about the power bracelet is because it is an auto-use item, you don't have to worry about it cluttering up your inventory. A lot of runners will try to manage their inventory as much as possible, to avoid having to cycle through additional items when they are doing their select swap or even in the menu. So Power Bracelet doesn't hurt to pick up, it just costs the time to actually go and pick it up.
Yeah, and thankfully, since it was a floor item, wasn't too bad in this case. We saw MrDunlo take a death over on the right screen. Fred finds a key, which he absolutely doesn't need, and we see, I think, the first glance of the map. I'm not certain if MrDunlo actually found the map.
No, this is the first I think we've seen this. So, very nice right there to see that the Zulls rolled down, so they either have 0 or 1 hit points. And the reason that's nice is because it's a lot quicker to take them out. So if you see a room full of them, you can get rid of them very, very quickly and still work a good count on them as well. So I always like when Zulls don't split.
Yep, being able to take them out with that one flame is definitely useful in this case. In any case, really. MrDunlo taking the Triforce out of 3, and Fred finding some unhelpful hints.
Yeah, we did decide that we were going to do community hints for this. Typically because, well, if we did helpful hints, it would really, really simplify some of the exploration and everything. But also, half the community hints would end up useless because, let's face it, we really don't need. I mean, I guess knowing that level 4 is at level 7 or something might be useful, but overall, wouldn't prove to be too beneficial to get hints about, where certain levels are.
Absolutely. And that is able to be changed within the randomizer. Again, on the left is Fcoughlin, who is the creator of this version of the randomizer, has, included a bunch of different settings. You can change the hints. You can change pretty much everything about, which is just a really neat series effect. So you can create the kind of game that you want to play, from easy to incredibly difficult. But for me, it's helpful to know that Beyonce was the real star of Hyrule, or whatever that hints.
Yeah. It's nice to know that Kanye made his way into Hyrule as well. So right now on Fred's screen, if you're not familiar with the randomizer, you'll see basically blue links walking around. That is because Fred is playing as the Gibdo, so we will see the Gibdo sprite swapped with the Link sprite. It's just a nice little thing that Fred threw in here. So you'll see the Link in the palette of Gibdos wherever they show up in this seed.
That should also affect, I think, the enemy sprite that we see when we hit level 9 and we see who we have to take down.
Yeah, it will affect a few sprites later on. So that will be entertaining. And Fred finds a heart container here in 5. Not what he wanted to find, but definitely beneficial because he was down to half heart.
And we know already, based on your comment earlier regarding count for the white sword, that value has been randomized, I believe, for this tournament to the number of hearts that is required to pick up the white sword item. Fred definitely in a good place to do that anyway, unless he finds a really unfortunate mugger room that is necessary to, complete level 5 or something. I don't think we're going to run into that. So Fred should be shortly picking up the bow, I imagine, after he's done with level 5, since it's just a quick little jaunt down to the white sword location.
Yeah, and Fred was actually in good position even before the heart pickup. So even if he did find a mugger room, he would still be guaranteed to get it. The randomization is anywhere between 4 and 6 hearts for the white sword item. And then we do have the Master Sword that some of our runners will choose to check in on, depending on where they're at in their heart count when they're over that way. And that can be randomized anywhere from 10 to 14 hearts. So if Fred gets a few more hearts here, when he heads back over to level 1, which remember, level 1 has 2 hearts in it, we may see him just take a quick check to see if he can pick up the magic sword.
Yeah, if you haven't found the white sword as an upgrade, or the wand, or in fact the silver arrows, which Fred has just picked up off the floor in level 5, then you might be looking for some more robust combat options. But Fred has, I believe, located both items in this, or at least the important one that we know about, and takes the Triforce out of 5.
Yeah, he got the heart container from the ladder, and then of course silver arrows are on the ground. So Lost Hills are really loaded for taking care of the beast because it has both the silver arrows and the bow. Meanwhile, MrDunlo is grabbing his Triforce out of level 2, so he has that all taken care of, and we'll see. He's choosing to go back in as well. Did get his any key earlier, but we know he has to pay the mugger to go up and find that heart container.
Yep, and Fred picking up the bow out of the White Sword cave. I'm sure that feels good at this point. Mr. Dunlo, hot on his heels, though. It's really, other than those two items being in the approximate same location, that's just, a trip up the mountain. Once you have enough, well, he has enough heart, and once he's able to get through level 5, not too terrible in terms of combat, but still an arduous journey that you have to trek through all those rooms.
Yeah, so Fred already has two of the key items. Still needs the ladder and the raft, or possibly the ladder, but definitely the raft and the recorder to progress. MrDunlo, if he does indeed go back into level 5, which he has to anyway because of the Triforce, uh, I'm assuming he'll probably be picking up the silver arrows because they were so close in proximity to where the Triforce is located.
And I think level 5 in general is one of the ones that's not terrible to dig if you know you're looking for two items and you still have, a healthy number of required items to find. It's not the worst option to continue.
Absolutely not. And right there, we see Fred make use of that power bracelet, being able to up A and immediately go to the take any road right by start, and the middle staircase takes you right up by level 6. So being able to come back to level 1 now with the any key, doesn't have to worry about any of the key blocks. Also, his issue earlier might have been he didn't have bombs, so he just didn't bother. He couldn't bother exploring anymore, so that's probably what it was.
Yeah, I believe you are correct. Now I know we found two heart containers in level 1. I'm not sure if you recall if we found the third item in level.
I don't think so. There is the possibility that either the Triforce or the item is Dig Dogger blocked here. But I don't recall seeing a third heart. In fact, I know there wasn't a third heart that we saw because MrDunlo only pulled two out of here. So, quite possibly that third item is still at large here in level 1. And our restreamer is confirming that MrDunlo does not have a third item tracked, so we are all in the basic assumption. Now, Fred is taking out this room here with the diamond staircase. This could potentially have a drop in shapes, so it is important to take it out because it's one of the easier rooms to forget about having a drop. So we'll see if this pays off for Fred.
Takes down those dark nuts on 1 heart of health. I'll tell you what, that's enough to make me shaking my boots. Any sort of dark nut combat that I have to do when I don't have, pretty close to full health, it's just not my thing. Fred taking these down like it's no problem. Finds that heart container in 1 as Mr. Dunlo grabs the heart out of Rock.
Yeah, so Fred's going to be at about 9 heart containers after this. MrDunlo will be at 8, heading back up to 5. If he finds the 1 and 5, he'll be at 9 too. So both are in close proximity to at least having a chance at that magic sword. We'll see if they can get it then. Also, Fred utilizing that clip again, but this time clipping into the water instead of a block to prevent not only damage from the Dark Nuts, but losing his sword to the bubbles. So, very effective form of combat here. Although it does take the Dark Nuts a little time to catch up to you sometimes.
If you don't have to gamble, they're gonna cause you to take damage, though. Honestly, I think that time loss time loss in that regard is worth it. Really, some incredible stuff that these runners can showcase. If you've played the vanilla game and you never, went around and explored these minor glitches or anything, the little tricks you can do with subpixels and things like that, it's just really incredible to watch some of this happen.
Yeah, and actually, for the randomizer, it actually opened up a lot of knowledge about the vanilla game. One of the tricks that we use in randomizer doesn't really have a lot of application in vanilla speedruns, but the kinetic key was actually discovered while playing randomizer. So a lot of basic knowledge that the randomizer did bring to the vanilla game too.
Yeah, the community is definitely they love finding ways to get around a little bit faster, to take damage less. It's just good when you're really racing for time there. Um, Fred has picked up both of those heart containers. That might have actually been all three because I think we found a staircase
Yep.
and
There
then
was definitely
more
three.
heart. Yep, and then Fred takes the Triforce out of one. So we do not have a Dig Dogger block in there, as I thought we might have. That's good news for our runners.
Yeah, good news, but also a little discouraging because that means that our progression's probably going to be sitting there in level 8. Fred does also have the option to head back to level 4, which we know is at Vanilla 3, so he is going to give a quick check to the Magic Sword here, and it is not at 10 hearts.
No, sir. MrDunlo heading back into level 4, which we know is at the Vanilla 3 location. Takes down these ropes. Again, they're just a little bit more difficult than in the vanilla game, so still not too bad in terms of combat. We do find the Triforce on the floor here.
Yeah, the biggest trick with ropes, when they have more than a single HP, is just not fighting them in very close combat because their dash will probably get to you before you can swing the sword again. So to sit there and fight with a few tiles worth of space, you can basically just bounce them back and forth and you'll be quite alright.
We can see MrDunlo over on the right-hand side taking down this four-headed Gleeok with sword beams. Excellent, excellent use of sword beams, especially against this pretty tough enemy. Heads flying everywhere, fireballs flying everywhere else. It's just not a good time. Still manages to take that down, only getting hit twice. Really, like I said, just incredible stuff. Doesn't find anything in that room for all of his troubles and burns the push block.
And we just saw Fred buy the meat. We did see the bait block earlier. Not sure if it was blocking off the entirety of the dungeon. I believe that was level 8 that we saw it in. But having it for use is always nice because that way you don't have to explore everywhere else and then realize the bait block is real. So having it is going to be a nice advantage for Fred when he gets to that point.
You do not want to get most of the way through level 7, 8, 9, anything like that, and then realize that you have to go out, find a shop that has meat, if you have enough rupees to get it. It's just a good time.
Yeah, so Fred actually did a good job of checking those secrets and managing to get his required rupees for the meat and finding where the cheap bait was. MrDunlo discovering another heart container here in level 4. Level 4 is actually segmented as well, but a lot of hearts for our runners so far and no progression. So it's looking more and more like level 8 might be the way.
I think we're definitely headed in that direction as far as the seed is concerned. Very healthy so far, but yeah, exactly that. Just nothing that these runners can make use of to get to vanilla level 4 or vanilla level 7, which we need the raft and the recorder for.
I like what Fred's doing here. He's actually taking out the keys just to be able to see what the item is sitting in the middle, to know whether he is ladder blocked at all in this dungeon or not. And of course, there is nothing sitting out there, so ladder won't have any effect in that room at all.
Oh, and I think MrDunlo actually ended up in that same room at the same, or very nearly the same.
Yeah, basically they're both hunting on the same side. MrDunlo does take a death here. Doesn't really affect much since there was nothing in there, but we'll see if he spends the time to go back and check it out, or since he has the map now, if he's going to hang out and check the much more spacious upper half of level 4.
Yeah, we can see there are just a handful of rooms that haven't been touched by either run. I think Fred finds another heart container in 4. I think that was the same one that MrDunlo had picked up earlier. And finds the map.
And MrDunlo discovering that wall masters are actually a little healthier as well, taking 3 hits compared to their normal 2, but clears out the room and does not get anything for it. So he's going to continue looking around for this floor item. And having the Triforce so close to the beginning is actually really nice, because then they can just up A and go back and grab it.
And that health refill. Just a really good thing to have when we're out and about exploring, finding new levels as well.
Yeah, the biggest item that our runners could actually, either the recorder or the raft would be really nice here, because they are close to both vanilla level 7 and vanilla level 4, so they could head towards those levels with a full health refill rather than upping and coming back later after, say, level 8. So having that is nice. But there on Fred's side, we see 4 also is full of hearts.
I think that means we are headed as a whole to level 8 to try and dig out those.
Yeah, Fred opted not to grab the Triforce. Probably being as close as it is to start and to vanilla level 7, vanilla level 4, figures that he can just pick it up quickly on his way through, and give himself a guaranteed health refill as well, instead of having to visit the fairy fountain first. But here he is going to use that bait, and he's going to actually save it. That's what the up A there does before the Meat Guardian disappears. If you up A, it will keep the bait in your inventory.
I am filing away the name Meat Guardian as a potential band name, so I appreciate that. Fred finds the recorder here in level 8, so there we go. There's our progression.
Yeah, very, very quick too, right behind that meat block. So Fred up A's to give himself a health refill, and will continue on exploring here in level 8. MrDunlo looks like is heading to look for potentially the blue ring with where his money is currently at, or he may also know about the bait block and is going to purchase that. Actually purchases arrows as well. And yeah, there is his bait purchase. So he knows about that meat block, so he will have his recorder very soon.
Yep, definitely a good move. So, no audio for our runners tonight. So we'll find out again once one of these runners finishes what was our recorder tune for the evening. But Fred, I think, did not completely defeat the Dig Dogger. Did I see that correctly?
Well, what he did, it's the same trick as the land mullet. If you get three of the mini, I call them mini doggers, and we'll get to this map in a second. But if you kill three of them, if you get three of the mini doggers and you kill one, exit and re-enter, then you will actually eliminate all three uh, from that room. So it will count as killing the dig dogger, even though you only killed one of the mini doggers.
I learned something new about this game literally every day.
Now, getting back to this level 8, level 7 is definitely a dog because I see it cut out there in the black. But this level 8 is something.
It's really hard to say what exactly, but MrDunlo heads downstairs and finds that recorder as well.
The room Fred is in, typically you don't have to kill anything because that will never have a drop here in shapes as of right now. But Fred opting to go ahead and kill the Zols just because of the hard drops and a little bit of extra money that he may be able to get from them with rupees. As we know, rupees are your ammo for arrows in this game, so always having a nice rupee count is great, especially when you're running into a lot of enemies that are susceptible to arrows.
That's definitely, and there really aren't too many that aren't. Whiz robes are just the worst, so you'll see some issues there. So always the bow and arrows, nice things to have.
And MrDunlo, very good wherewithal to save his game. He actually encountered a unfortunate graphical issue with his game, so ended up having to completely restart his NES, but did save his game beforehand. So very good wherewithal to do that and realize that he could just reset and get rid of that graphical.
Oof, yeah, definitely. If anything's a safety save, that's the one.
So MrDunlo is going to learn the bad news that 10 hearts is not enough for the magic sword. But right after, I would imagine, is going to dive right back into level 1 to get the, or maybe not, is going to save instead of going into level 1 to get the Triforce. So looks like he is going to immediately head over to vanilla level 7 to go ahead and check out what is there.
So we'll see our first glance. I believe there it will either be level 6 or level 7. I think those are the two we have. One of them's at 7 and one of them's at 4. Vanilla location.
Right now, if I'm MrDunlo, I am hoping for level 7 because level 6 is going to probably be much nastier. Level 7 doesn't look like it will be too daunting based on the size of 8.
Yeah, so the map, if unless I'm mistaken, the map of 8 will inversely dictate the shape of 7. Unless if I'm correct there, I believe that you'll see 7 within the map of 8 as we see now, and vice versa if we find 7.
Yeah, basically how it's set up in the memory of the ROM is there's a 16 by 16 grid for all the levels. An 8 by 16 grid on the top, levels 1 through 6 share. Then on the bottom, an 8 by 8 grid for level 9, and the other 8 by 8 grid is for level 7 and 8. So level 7 will almost always be the inverse of level 8, with a few exceptions, because any transport staircases or item stairwells will actually carve out a black blank section of our levels.
We see Fred heading over here toward the large secret location. All of the secret locations in these bracket flags, or the bracket seeds rather, are actually in their vanilla location. So the runners always know where to pick up some cash if they need it. Fred opens up level 7 and finds, as we see on MrDunlo's side, level 7.
Yeah, so we know level 6 is going to be at level 4, but this also we learned a little bit of information that is really interesting. If you don't have any foresight into level 8 before you go in, which neither of our runners did, of course, and neither of them actually had the bait purchased, level 8 is actually a triple dip this seed. You enter, you find out your bait blocked, you leave, you go back in with bait to get recorder, have to leave again because your ladder blocked, and then your progression for the ladder is either going to be here in 7, or you're going to have to pull the raft out of here, go to 6, grab the ladder, and then head back to 8.
And that's exactly the kind of combination that tests these runners. So I don't envy them these seeds, but they definitely are handling it very well. Mr. Dunlo over on the right side defeats the Goma and then gets hit with a fireball in pretty much the same second. So goes back to the beginning of the dungeon.
And Fred taking an unfortunate death there. Even with a bunch of hearts, you can have them completely filled up, but some of these enemies can really wear you down very, very quickly. And even some of our best runners can, take a fall to something like a Gleeok or, a Patra or even Ganon. Ganon's very known to do that quite a bit, but the fireballs are very difficult to gauge where they're going to come from on the Gleeok. Knowing how to manipulate them definitely is beneficial, because what you can do is uh, basically have the fireballs fire horizontally, so that way they're on the screen longer, so it will be longer before another fireball comes from Gleeok. So that's a little bit of something that you can use to your benefit, but still Gleeok fights are vastly annoying, and Fred is just going to fill up at the fairy fountain.
Yeah, I think at this point that's definitely a good call. Just going in there with full health uh, be a massive advantage for taking down the Gleeok. And level 7 seems to be pretty Gleeok heavy as it is. We see Mr. Dunlo taking one down on the right. We had Fred fighting one on the black screen on the left. They're everywhere.
Yeah, and both of them are the little bulkier versions. Mr. Dunlo fighting a 4-headed, Fred fighting a 3-headed. Definitely not fun. And neither of them actually have the benefit of being able to sit in the right doorway to fight the Gleeok too. You can sort of sit in the right doorway with some enemies and avoid a lot of projectiles just because of how the game skews the hitboxes. But Mr. Dunlo didn't have that advantage, neither did Fred.
And on top of that, we're seeing both of these runners with just the wooden sword. So as far as combat is concerned, just really playing at a disadvantage. Mr. Dunlo walks behind Gleeok to find a blue Goma. Thankfully, picked up those wooden arrows earlier in the game. Otherwise, we'd have some real problems.
Yeah, this level 7, looking a lot like the boss structure of level 8 in vanilla, just with all the Gomas and all the Gleeoks. Uh, quite the gauntlet that you don't want to deal with.
Yep, and Fred finds the map and looks at it exactly as you described earlier. Pretty much the inverse of the level 8 map that we saw earlier.
And Fred potentially finding the item. Nope, it's a staircase.
It's another staircase. I think it's at least two, maybe three, probably just two staircases we found here in 7.
Now, there will actually only be one staircase here in 7 because it is all connected. Now, the staircase might be necessary, or that could have just been a room that you couldn't have accessed any other way and get you nowhere. But, well, yeah, that's not even a great. That's not great at all. So Fred's gonna actually have to head down into the bottom section here to find his items. Mr. Dunlo back in 8. may expect that he can maybe just traverse the whole entire bottom of the map here to get to the Triforce. Unfortunately, we know that the way over to the left is across the top, and there's a ladder block involved.
That there is. And Fred finds the Triforce here in level 7, right at that T shape along the bottom, but is going to keep exploring, looking for these items here. You're hoping not to have to come back to 7 if you can avoid it.
And there he does find the item, and it is the ladder. So
Ooh, nice
there's
find.
our entry into the back half of 8. Now, I'm pretty much guessing that Fred is going to check the rest of level 7 here for the raft. There's not a lot left to explore, and we know the raft either has to be here or it's one of those 2 items level 8. So he is definitely going to finish out exploration in these last 8 rooms.
Yep, and not a bad call if you don't have to come down here again. Probably don't want to. But Fred picks up the bomb upgrade there, gets, I think, +2 from the map.
Yeah,
So
+2 for 105, huh? Not that
not
great.
economical. Yeah. But so it goes.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the rupees to burn, it's never a bad check at all. Fred doesn't really have many more rupees to burn now, but right there is the raft. So
Oh,
level
wow.
7 paying off dividends, and that puts Fred into what he calls blitz mode. So he is going to be able to just go into level 6, find the Triforce, get out of there, and basically do the same with level 8 now. So he will be flying on the back half of this.
Yeah, massive advantage for Fred there, finding both of the vital transportation items. The ladder to finish level 8, the raft to get to vanilla level 4 location, which we know hosts level 6. So Fred here really just sort of beelining for the Triforces before he heads to level 9.
Now, the fact that Fred didn't go to level 4 there first, there may be the possibility that he grabbed level 4 Triforce and none of us saw it. Or he may be forgetting about it, or he may just be Fred and have his own route that he's going to be taking.
On any given day, I'd say it's hard to say because I would think that there were several of us watching. I don't recall seeing him pick up the Triforce in 4. But again, it is entirely possible we did miss it. But Fred will do as Fred does, and it could be intentional.
Yeah, I also like the fact that Fred is still clearing out some of these easy rooms, because what that will do is, like, let's say he comes across the white sword or the red ring, that's just going to give him extra benefit for the remainder of the race. Nothing absolutely necessary, but always nice to have.
Yeah, I just think of those generally as quality of life items. You don't need to pick them up, but if you can take a quarter of the damage you were taking before by finding the red ring, go. Unless you're really crunched for time, I think that it's probably going to save you more in the long run. So Fred finds a staircase here. Here's the item, another heart container, and Fred decides to pick that up. We could potentially see another magical sword play. I'm not 100% certain, but the decision to pick up that heart container at this point kind of points in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's either all but one of our heart containers for the seed that we've seen. So, uh, Fred, pretty healthy right now. He skipped, I know, one of the heart containers in level 4, but I'm not so certain that he will spend the time to go check for magic sword. Maybe if he doesn't find anything of great benefit along the way and just wants that little bit of extra combat. But with Fred, it's going to be hit or miss.
Yeah, and we know that the wand is along the coast, so that's probably impractical at this point to go pick up now that he has the ladder, but I've seen stranger things.
And there's level 6's map, and as we predicted, it is ugly.
No, Krim, it's not ugly, it's just different. No, I mean, that's pretty bad, honestly.
I have no problem hurting level 6's feelings.
It's hurt all of ours more than enough. So Fred picks up a clock there. I think that was unintentional, but still manages to freeze those wall masters in the wall in just the right position to be able to take them down.
Yeah, not finding what he wants, which is of course the compass or the Triforce, but the little bit of extra cash isn't bad either, just to have those extra arrows. And yeah, we're not gonna fight that room.
That's not a fun room.
So here you see a lot of the bouncing ropes. You can just kind of keep them on that bounce with the fire, which is really nice because then it's sort of just added protection. Ropes are more annoying than dangerous in these seeds, but you get in a room with a bunch of them and you're not looking at them, they can definitely scale up the damage pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, they can ambush you. And one thing that I've seen personally that I've done is, especially once you get the red ring. I know we haven't seen it yet for this seed, but when you get the red ring, you kind of falter under the illusion that you are invincible, and you are absolutely not. So even with ropes, something simple like that can take you down if you let them get enough hits on you. So we see MrDunlo heading to level 5. Hopefully, we should see him picking up the silver arrows before too long, as Fred picks up the Triforce in level 6.
What a location for that Triforce too. Bottom left, the bottom left section where you have to basically traverse 4 rooms before it with no other path to get there. So, ugly location overall.
Yeah, you know what? I will concede on the use of the word ugly, because that is unfriendly to anyone, especially anyone there. So we see Fred coming down here to get this heart, or sorry, grab the right along the lake here.
Yeah, at this point, Fred is pretty much committing on, just getting the Triforce out of 8. Knows where it is, has the compass, and has the map, even though it's a very, very long walk, so he still may check a staircase if he comes across it. But he is just set on going in and grabbing this Triforce and getting to level 9 as soon as possible. He may think that there's potential that Dunlo may have went and bought bait and got into level 8 a lot faster and was able to get ladder and everything else. So Fred always respects his opponents and their ability to play, and MrDunlo is no slouch. So Fred, more often than not, will sit there and always go with the mindset that he could potentially be behind.
Absolutely. And when you see racers like the ones we have in this tournament, it's really hard not to assume that your opponent is ahead. So Fred just laying down some bait along the way, just in case, just for decoration.
Yeah, a lot of enemies don't really care for the bait in this seed, but or at least this dungeon, but he's going to do it anyway, because it's Fred.
Yep, so we come here to our ladder block. This Triforce in 8 really, really is at the end of this entire level. Just the nastiest place I think it can possibly be.
Really good room there for Fred. Realizes that he doesn't need to go down, but able to get a bomb drop as a room drop for that to sort of counter all the bumps he used to take it out. Very nice. And is not coming across any items, just a bunch of keys.
Yep, and MrDunlo picks up the silver arrows off the floor in level 5. For sure is very glad to see those. Along with the bow, it's quite an advantage to combat compared.
So Fred did push here. He is going to see if it's an item, but it is not. It's just the transport staircase. Is going to take it just to see if it brings him out closer to the Triforce. Mr. Dunlo does grab the Triforce out of 5 as well. And it does actually brings him one room north. So
Ooh, not a bad
very,
find.
very nice take right there.
Look, that vanilla looking Triforce room. So Fred picks up the Triforce out of 8. Really just needs one piece left in level 4. Unless it is completely full, we'll check the menu next time he accesses it.
He's recording, and it looks like he's going to level 1. So he is going to check Magic Sword here. The fact that he's going to check this and not go immediately back and forth tells me that, at least in his mind, he does have the Triforce out of 4. So very possible we dismiss that pickup. So he'll grab or try to grab the Magic Sword here. And it is 12 hearts, so Mr. Dunlo will have to come back at his next heart to grab it. But Fred has the Magic Sword and is going to be able to go to level 9.
Ooh, yeah, bad news for Mr. Dunlo. Heading up there, just one heart under, unfortunately. But still trucking through level 1. If we remember, I believe all 3 items in level 1 were heart containers. I think Mr. Dunlo picked up at least 2 out of 3 of them, possibly 3 out of 3. It's a little bit harder to track hearts once the dungeon shuffle or the heart shuffle is on. All the same, just has to grab the Triforce out of 1 here.
He did pick the one up in this room, but I believe the one south of here he did not enter yet. So he actually will. Yep, right there it is. So he now has enough for the Magic Sword if he chooses to check it as soon as he gets the Triforce here. And of course, Fred is in level 9 now. So when you enter level 9, you're going to be listening and looking for a few things. First of all, you're listening for a roar, and that is where the beast is going to be in one of the 4 adjacent rooms to what you hear. However, monsters such as that Manhandler that we just saw can mask the roar of Ganon, so you do have to be a little careful in your exploration. Also, as they clear rooms, if there is a single shutter door and it does not open when you clear the room, we know that the kidnapped will be trapped behind that door. So that will also be a telltale sign to our runners, hey, this is somewhere I need to come back once I defeat the beast. And I say beast and kidnap for the reason that Fred is not going to be rescuing Zelda.
Not at all. Now, it is also worth mentioning one helpful thing for us, especially since we don't currently have audio on this. We do have a visual cue that tips us off to the fact that we may have found the beast. If the room turns dark whenever we walk into it, we know we found the room of Ganon. It gives us maybe half a second's advantage to know what we found. But in the shapes category, the rooms that would normally be dark rooms are only normal rooms, just to, I think, probably offer runners a little bit more sanity. So if Fred walks into a room here and it turns dark, we know that we have found him or the beast.
Yeah, and Fred was kind of hoping that there was not going to be a opening shutter door there, but unfortunately it did open. So he's just going to continue exploring. Now, as runners go through and explore, you'll notice that they do a lot of zigzagging, and the reason is that walking up and down is not exactly the best method. You want to try to cover as much real estate as possible when looking for Ganon. So you're basically going to walk every other column or every other row so if you don't hear anything to the left or the right, you'll know, well, obviously it's not in the next row, so we'll go 1 more, 2 more over. So runners will use that to their advantage. They also sometimes will tend to go in a way that the seed dictates. So a lot of them will choose, okay, I'll go until I can't anymore, and then I'll take a staircase, or I won't use keys because I only have 1 key. So there's a lot of different determining factors on how runners route through level 9.
Yeah, definitely personal preference. I think a little part in superstition too, depending on what sort of routes have brought you success in the past. But we're seeing a lot of single shutter doors, and none of them are
Well, there
Except
we go.
that one. I spoke too soon. So we found a shutter door and it didn't open after we defeated all the souls in there. It's a pretty good bet we found our princess.
Well, that compass just confirms it too.
Oh, okay, that's the compass will actually pinpoint the location of the rescued in this as well. As we see on the map there, just a few rooms over from here. We're hoping for, well, Fred's hoping for a quick Ganon. Quick beast.
Now, Fred is continuing to take staircases here. There are a total of 6 transport staircases, unless the level is actually segmented, then there can be a 7th, but there's always going to be 6, and as you're going through, you're trying to sort of, well, there's our dark room, so never mind. Here's Zelda.
All right, with the magical sword, I believe it should take 4 hits to take down Zelda. Each hit where Zelda lands on Fred will cost 4 hearts of damage, so got to be really careful there. Fred did pick a red potion though, so should be okay as long as he remembers to use it.
Manages to escape with a heart and a half. If he would have actually taken another hit from Zelda, he would have gone down, but Fred knows the path right back to the kidnapped. Will not take long at all.
Yep, so just has to be careful getting back on the way to the rescued over here, but finds the path pretty easily. So Fred finishes the race tonight. Get your GGs in chat, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first of our runners to finish tonight on the stream.
Yeah, finishes with an official SRL time of 1:01:21. Very good race on his side, and MrDunlo just only needs 3 Triforces left. Unfortunately, still does not have the ladder or the raft out of level 7, and sees the bad news here that does not have any other path over towards the Triforce.
So we will find out shortly what our recorder tune was. Leaf from Crystal.
And I believe we have Fred in here with us. Good game, sir.
Oh, thank you.
GG, Fred.
That was a fun one. For certain definitions of fun.
The definition would probably be held within 8's map.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What is your algorithm doing anymore? Because these shapes, especially like 6s and 8s, have been more and more interesting lately.
I haven't actually touched it in quite some time. I don't know what's happening. It's not a unintentional type of thing that's happened. I guess it's just gotten some really lucky shapes there. I mean, the 8 there was beautiful shape-wise, a little scary, especially when it discovered you had to double dip 8, but it was beautiful otherwise.
Beautiful is an adjective, for sure. I don't know if it's the one I'd use, but it's up there. How about that level 7 too, with those 2 with the ladder and the raft right next to each other?
Oh yeah, that was definitely really cool. I mean, I even briefly thought when I got the ladder, I'm like, okay, do I really keep going? Yeah, when I got the ladder, I'm like, okay, well that opens up 8. Do I go back into 8? And I'm like, no, I gotta clear the rest of this level out. Maybe it'll give me a white sword or a red ring or something useful. And then the raft came up, and it's like, okay, it's not exactly the useful I wanted, but if we're gonna be blitzing at that point, okay, I guess we have to go with it.
It's a pretty fortunate thing to find, especially when you know you're going to have to go back through 8, find the ladder block, and you don't have to continue to dig the rest of it. It is a monster according to that map.
Oh yeah, it was a tough one. I mean, technically, with the Wizrobe dungeon didn't help either with that, especially since you were funneled through that one Wizrobe room. Didn't have to kill them, but pretty much if you didn't kill them, you were gonna pretty much eat, probably a full bar or 2, trying to run past them to bomb on the other side.
So speaking of depleting health quickly, almost lost it there to Zelda in your fight. Managed to escape with 1.5 hearts. were you not so concerned because there seemed to be a path from the right if you had it left at start, or did you just forget that you had the potion, or just not realize where your health was?
I saw where the health was, but at the point where that was happening, I knew I could. Ganon spawned in a funky spot, so finding Ganon initially there was a little bit of a tricky thing. That's where I ate a lot of the damage. Once I got the initial first hit in, then I knew where to stay on the grid, so that way I would only eat the fireball. So at 1.5, I still wasn't too concerned, because even if I got another fireball hit, then I was going to pull the potion out and go for it. But I just figured I was actually almost about to go for the potion just for safety when I got hits 3 and 4 in on there. But once, fortunately, Ganon's pattern's not too bad. That once you get Ganon where you expect it to be, then it's not as bad in terms of being able to do the fight. You have to worry about the fireballs being thrown, but again, those are only 1 heart of damage instead of 4.
Yeah, I'd say overall, your route worked perfectly into this because you found the red candle, which took you to 2. Then you found the any key, went up to 5, found the silver arrows, immediately got the bow out of the white sword cave. You found your bait block in 8 relatively early. So really, overall, your routing was pretty much perfect.
Yeah. Thanks. I got lucky with it too. I mean, there were a few cases there I definitely was kicking myself when I went back and dug level 4, because I was like, okay, the only thing I'm missing here is the key, so I better go in and check that. And oh, look, it was just hearts. And level 1, where I went back and decided to dig through the whole thing, and it's just heart, which, it gave me health and helped me get to the magical sword in the end, so it wasn't a complete time loss, but still was a scary little one.
Yeah, not exactly what you're looking for when you have that promise of 3 items in 1 and a short level. Still not a bad find overall.
Yeah, it was a little bigger, I think, than some of the ones I've seen, but just it wasn't too bad. I was a little scared that I'd written down the fact that there was that one dig dogger, and I definitely didn't have the recorder at the time. I was thinking to myself, okay, please don't be, something hidden under that dig dogger, like the raft or something like that. And got lucky that I found the rest of the hearts.
Yeah, and I have to say, I at least appreciate that we got a triple dip 8. Having to go out, buy the meat, to go and get the recorder, and then go back in after getting the ladder out of 7. So at least we got that out of this seed.
That was cool, I have to say. It's not one of those common cases of having to get the raft or not the raft, but having to do bait in the first place. I just love the way that happened to fall. There is absolutely nothing weighting the algorithm intentionally to require bait. So, yet I would love to work that in a little bit more often, but I got to figure out the right way to do that.
You might be the only one.
Shh, minor details. I couldn't let it actually eat the meat, though. That's why I up-baited there. I just figured, okay, you gonna make me pay it? I'm still gonna keep it.
It's both cruel and unusual.
You don't know me very well, do you?
Clearly. We've got MrDunlo at the same time down in level 7 right now. I think is about to find the raft under this last poll's voice. Yep.
So while MrDunlo is going through and finishing all this, and I guess throwing a silver arrow at you, Fred.
Ouch.
So this is game 1. Obviously, you have another game against MrDunlo and everything, but I always like to hear, especially from the other admins, their thoughts on all the bracket matchups you got to see so far. We mentioned early on in the broadcast that there have been a lot of good matches. So,
oh, absolutely. There've been a ton of good matches. I know I was awake last night. I think it was for Shaitan against JP there, and that match ended up being phenomenal to watch. That one kept me up a little bit later than I was expecting to be completely honest with you, because I was planning to, go to bed a little bit earlier last night. But that match just was a phenomenal match to see. I've been seeing a whole bunch of really close matches here, and even seeing some of the matchups that are potentially falling into place here as people are making their way through their various matches. And there's a lot of good matches even right now and coming forward here. I mean, looking down the list here, you have, and again, I'm just running down everything here to try to see. But as I said, the Shaitan against Brewers was definitely a phenomenal match to start out with. You've got some really good matchups coming up. In this round, you got Raikou against Jam, which has been going on tonight on Speed Gaming. Two big names who have been in this tournament for a while. In these around pretty much since the beginning of Randomizer, seeing them play. But then it's coming along and seeing, a whole bunch of the newer blood too come along, and a whole bunch of really, really good matches coming out of that. You've got other people. I'm just trying to scroll through the list here and see, all the different matchups. I'm trying to remember what other ones, but you see people who are coming out of the woodwork. You have matches like, Homer, J Smash, and Sock, who are both, players who have picked it up, last tournament or two. So newer guard, and both of them are doing really well. You see some vanilla players coming along, like Cantaloupe, who pulled, was able to earn a bye on the first round there, and he's played a ton. He's played in the past. He's joined typically randomizer tournaments just for playing them, but hasn't necessarily had a ton of success in some of those tournaments. Won a couple of matches here or there, but hadn't really made it far in some of the tournaments. And this tournament, he's turned around and been kicking butt, and it's great seeing that. You're gonna see some potential awesome matchups, I think, in a couple of rounds here, depending obviously on how the brackets are going. But the really interesting thing about this format is the best of 3 single elimination. So you're seeing people start to make those decisions in game 2. Okay, what's my opponent going to do? What do I do to try to push through here? And as I said, there's been a ton of good play in this. It's really exciting to see, the different matchups that we've been seeing. Exciting to see, who's been doing really well here. And as I said, a bunch of names that I hadn't seen before coming out of the woodwork and playing incredibly well. Got the match, I think, actually going on probably about right now, Adirondack Rick against Boletta. Boletta having come through, playing against Bent Glass 2. Boletta's another person who I'd seen, she'd been watching a lot of these matches. And, I hadn't seen her play a lot, and comes out, gets a really strong number 40 seed, beat Bent Glass 2, who's been playing this game as well for a very long time, and now giving Rick a good fight here. So there's a ton of good matchups here, and there's a bunch more, I think, even just a little bit further down the line. So, as I said, this has just been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I know one match that's going to be incredible tomorrow is Norastra and Bogey Smalls. Right now it's tied 1-1 between the two of them, but in both of their races, they entered 9 within 30 seconds of each other. So both have been incredibly close races.
Yeah, that's a great matchup here. The two of them, again, have been around, reasonably newer. Norastra's been a lot in the, helping with the restream type of things, helping a lot with the commentary, and, the skills have just been ramping up. We've been seeing some great play here. I mean, again, just looking down the list, seeing any matchup that was a 1-1 or a 2-1 here. You got Truant Gamer against Chrono JJ, which I think is going on later tonight. Both at 1-1. Dark Files against Green Mario was another one that went to best of 3 here. And, there's a ton of awesome play. And as you said, a whole bunch of these matches where we're getting to level 9 really close, and it's truly coming down to sometimes a coin flip, sometimes a case of, you'll still see the skill typically win out over those coin flips. Sometimes the coin flip will affect things, but then you had, one match last night where it came down to the Ganon fight. They were both fighting Ganon at the same time, and one player was able to get a stun lock in a little quicker and get the victory by only like 30 seconds. So it's amazing stuff.
Absolutely. Breach, do you have any other questions for Fred? Otherwise, we could probably let him get going and potentially get back on his streaming for people.
Yeah, just one last bit to announce that Fred's next match against MrDunlo will be next Monday, same bat time, potentially same bat channel, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So everyone, tune in to see Fred compete against MrDunlo once more in game number 2. Fred, again, very well done on your victory tonight. Thanks again for joining us in the channel, and best of luck in your next match.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for calling this matchup. Again, anyone out there, because they may not want to plug themselves, make sure to give this commentary team a follow. Follow to Gary and Old Wolf, who's been doing a great job with the restream behind the scenes here, and also for hold on a second here for all the tracking stuff that's going on with this. But again, thank you guys for calling this match, and we'll look forward to seeing you in about a week or so. Have a good one.
Thanks. Take care, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
So MrDunlo did complete his raft and ladder gate in level 7, and also grabbed the Triforce out of level 6. We also saw a heart in level 6, so MrDunlo also getting an additional heart, which will definitely be helpful, and just needs to grab the Triforce here out of level 8.
Yep, should be a pretty good shape at this point to run along to complete level 9. Sure was very, very glad to see that ladder finally pop up in 7. Caught it in the middle of the interview with Fred. Got the ladder and then the raft in pretty much the same bit as before. So good shape to run through, hit this ladder block with the blue wisp robes and, make it through them just to get down and collect that triangle.
And we did hear Fred mention about the Chrono JJ Truant Gamer matchup, and that will actually be on this channel at 11. So pretty much immediately following this this stream right here, we are going to be switching restreamers, but we will be right back and have that matchup, which should be really good.
Absolutely. If you didn't get a chance yet to watch that match, I believe it happened on one of the speed gaming channels. I might be wrong, but either way, very excellent match between Truant Gamer and Chrono JJ. So if you are sticking around and you want to see more rando after this race is completed, please definitely consider sticking around for that. It promises to be a great match between those two runners.
So MrDunlo just trying to find that magic way to get down to the Triforce End. We know Fred took the staircase. I believe it was one room south here, but MrDunlo just has to get around. But is going to check out this push block, and magical boomerang is here in 8.
Yep, that's definitely the item we did see before. One of them, I think we saw at least one previously in 8. Not what he is looking for, but might also take that second push block that we saw earlier to get right above the Triforce.
All right, so now MrDunlo is in the correct room. Is able to bomb down. May just select to try to walk all the way down with the path being pretty clear.
Ooh,
Of course, a bunch of orange witch roads we get through.
not a fun room to walk into. Maybe marginally easier if MrDunlo would use the staircase there, but still overall not too bad. There we find, I think, the last item was a heart container. Unsurprising, maybe unwelcome. Who's to say? Oh, it looks like actually that staircase was necessary.
Oh wow! So yeah, the Triforce area blocked off.
So I'm hoping at this point that MrDunlo did see that staircase. I think. Well, we'll see what he does.
He saw the room with it in, but he didn't actually clear the room to know that the staircase was there. So he may be going back that way, and when he sees the 2 push blocks, he'll be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let me clear out this room and try," and realize his way in there.
Yeah, I think he did clear it because I think the last enemies in there were a Keese and a Zol. But I don't know if he tried the push block, to be honest with you, because he's looking for empty rooms and is not. Well, we'll see if he heads back up because I think the next one up is the correct room. Yeah, I don't think he tried the push block right there.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing a lot more backtracking, unfortunately. May have thought he saw another room and, oh, he's electing to try that room first, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, once you've been playing a seed long enough, all of the rooms start to run together and look the same. So, in no way is this surprising. If you've been playing for long enough, you just sometimes the rooms all sort of start to look the same. So, we'll see if he heads back down to that push block. I don't get the feeling that he recognizes that he didn't, but I'm hopeful.
Alright, so we actually have a few more races going on yet tonight. So I'm actually going to duck out for just a moment. I will be back for a commentary on the Truant Gamer Chrono JJ race. So I'll be right back here on Random Mania 2. But Threech, do you think you can see the rest of this race out?
Absolutely, I can. Thanks, Krim. Appreciate your time. Thanks for calling with me tonight. Everyone, make sure to get out there, give Crimson Axe a follow. There are some commands in chat you can use to find the commentary, the racers. So make sure you just get out there and give them a good click. So enjoy the race with Truant Gamer and Chrono JJ. We'll be over there at some point to also watch that same race happen. So enjoy.